What happens to tyrants when they die? Do victims of tyranny automatically go to a higher place, or does their emotional response to the tyrant affect their destination? Can tyrants and evil people leave hell if they change, or are they condemned forever? My topic today is The Beautiful Gifts of the Spirit World, Part 6, The Gift of Freedom from Tyranny, Part 2. This presentation is the 6th of 7 videos. The victim of a tyrant may suffer throughout her physical life, yet since both tyrant and victim will die and enter the spirit world, the most important factor for each is to pay attention to how they each respond to life and how they each conduct their affairs, because once the layer of the physical world is removed, they are each left with the raw state of their mind and heart. Based on the view that the various environments of the spirit world are the direct reflections of the spirit and heart of their inhabitants, the tyrant, resonating as he does with cruelty and the death of love, will move to a realm that matches his spiritual state. It is not punishment doled out by a vengeful God. It is simply the outward projection of his own internal state, a mechanical response to his darkened mind by the fabric of the spirit world. In the physical world, his mind and emotions did not perceptibly change his physical surroundings, but in the spirit world, the energy patterns of the environment are said to be responsive to the individual, which makes sense if one thinks about how a darkened mood can cause a person to feel that one's physical surroundings are devoid of joy and light and love, even on a beautiful and gloriously sunny day. In the grim spiritual realm created by his internal state, the tyrant may find himself fighting against other tyrants more ferocious than he. Even though he might have the freedom in that realm to try to do anything he wants, he may find himself surrounded by evil people who could end up dominating him. He in turn may dominate other evil denizens of that realm. He may also find himself in a suffocating atmosphere where he can hardly move because of the darkness of his spirit. His actual freedom is thus conditional upon his internal state. Yet he is always free to turn his attention toward goodness and thus gradually change his spiritual state and move to a higher realm. The situation of the victim of the tyrant can be complicated, depending on her emotional state when she dies. She has the potential to be dragged down by the toxic feelings of rage and resentment, and thus find herself in a spiritual environment that is not at all pleasant. This is not to say that a victim who dies with resentment is at fault, since she may be an innocent victim. I'm simply presenting a hypothesis that the mechanical environment of the spirit world responds to the feelings of each individual. It is not punishment, but is instead like the law of gravity. If one stumbles off a cliff, gravity takes over. If one's mind is filled with thoughts of hatred and revenge, the atmosphere has already become painful and cold and affects one's surrounding spiritual environment, even in the physical world. I believe that because we are given the freedom to feel and think and act in any way that we wish, we have the potential to go down paths that only bring us unhappiness. If the victim of the tyrant finds a way to release her pain and rage and resentment, and finds a way to resonate with forgiveness and love, she will be drawn to a realm reflecting her love. In that realm, she will be surrounded by others of a similar spiritual level. There will be no tyrants in that realm. Since she's a free individual living in a realm of goodness, no one there, including God, will make her do anything. I believe that this is so because I think that behind the structure of the spirit world lies an eternal motivating energy of love. That love does not force a response, but patiently waits for a response that in its freedom defines its immense value. The process of attaining freedom in the spirit world based on spiritual growth has been vividly illustrated in a book called A Wanderer in the Spirit Lands. It is a volume of messages transcribed by a medium named A. Farnese, published in London in 1896. The messages are from a young and formerly dissolute Italian man named Francesco, who lived in the late 1800s. In Part 1, Days of Darkness, Chapter 2, Despair, Francesco has awakened in the spirit world. Then a voice as of some majestic being spoke to me in the darkness and said, "Behold how poor and repulsive and deformed your earthly life has made your soul, which is immortal and divine, and to endure forever." And I looked and beheld myself. As in a mirror held up before me, I saw myself. O horror! It was beyond doubt myself. But oh, so awfully changed, so vile, so full of baseness did I appear, so repulsive in every feature. Even my figure was deformed. I shrank back in horror at my appearance and prayed that the earth might open before my feet and hide me from all eyes forevermore. Later, after Francesco has grown through a long period of service with a brotherhood of monks, he has moved upward into a better environment, described in Part 4, The Gates of Gold, Chapter 28, My Home and Work in the Morning Land. Here in the Morning Land, I found that I was to have a little home of my own, a something earned by myself. I have always loved a place of my own, and this little cottage, simple as it was very dear to me. It was indeed a peaceful place. The green hills shut it in on every side save in front, where they opened out and the ground stretched away in undulating slopes of green and golden meadowland. There were no trees, no shrubs around my new home, no flowers to gladden my eyes, because my efforts had not yet blossomed into flower. But there was one sweet trailing honeysuckle that clustered around the little porch and shed the fragrance of its love into my rooms. This was the gift of my beloved to me, the spiritual growth of her sweet, pure, loving thoughts which twined around my dwelling to whisper to me ever of her constant love and truth. Toward the end of his testimony in his many labors in Part 4, The Gates of Gold, Chapter 32, in the section, My Home in the Land of Bright Day, he has moved to a much brighter place. The waving branches of the trees bent over me in loving welcome as I passed. The flowers seemed to turn to me as greeting one who loved them well. At my feet there was the soft green sward, and overhead a sky so clear, so pure, so beautiful, the light shimmering through the trees as never did the light of earthly sun. Before me were lovely blue and purple hills and the gleam of a fair lake, upon whose bosom tiny islets nestled, crowned with the green foliage of groups of trees. Here and there a little boat skimmed over the surface of the lake, filled with happy spirits, clad in shining robes of many different colors, so like to earth, so like my beloved southern land, and yet so changed, so glorified, so free from all taint of wrong and sin. As I passed up the broad, flower-girt road, a band of spirits came to meet and welcome me, amongst whom I recognized my father, my mother, my brother, and a sister, besides many beloved friends of my youth. They carried gossamer scarfs of red, white, and green colors, which they were waving to me, while they strewed my path with masses of the fairest flowers as I approached. And all the time they sang the beautiful songs of our own land in welcome, their voices floating on the soft breeze in the perfection of unison and harmony. I felt overcome with emotion. It seemed far too much happiness for one like me. This concludes part 6 of the 7 videos. The next video will be part 7, the gift of water, the gift of flowers, and the message of the gifts. Thank you for watching. You can follow me on Twitter at Falkenberg and email me at peterbrown@worldcommunity.com. I invite you to subscribe, leave a comment, and click on the like button. I also invite you to become a patron of the arts and visit my webpage at patreon.com/PeterFalkenberg-Brown, where you will have the opportunity to support this video channel by donating a small or a larger amount each month. I am very grateful for all your support. I could not do this without you. So, until next time, love and blessings, and thank you.